So, Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, H. 1, 1, 2, 3.
Original hast du ja dann Englisch, Französisch, was auch immer. Genau. Und Deutsch hast du dann den Deutschen durchweg. Also wenn jemand Deutsch hier spricht, hast du Deutsch auch drauf.
Natürlich, klar.
Original.
Ja. Genau. Und wo sitzt ihr?
Wir? Also wir haben ja mit den Dolmetscher-Sachen gar nichts. Wir sind ja aus. Aber wir sind draußen auf dem Gang. Und hier sitzen viele dahin.
Ja, gar nicht.
Weil dann bist du auch auf so einer Reihe große dahinter halt so ein Gefühl.
Ja gut, so ist es halt. Ne? Weil, ja.
Da muss ich halt blind arbeiten. Sozusagen.
Nee. Okay, aber für dann umgeschaltet dann.
Ja, habe ich gezeigt. Da habe ich ja gesagt, oh, super, ja. Genau, wir haben zumindest reagiert. Genau. Die haben ja auch mal dieses Bauern.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you had a prompt arrival. Although we have, of course, the strike going on, so may I just ask for your attention as we are about to start. We are filling up the seats, but if you hear my voice, welcome again. Bienvenue, good morning to all of you. And great to have you back on our second day here at the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. Please take your seat so we can start promptly. I know we have a lot to debate. It's beautiful to have this conversation energy back in the room after yesterday. I just wanted to tell you that we are about to start and it's great to see you. Good morning. Buenos dias. Good morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning. Lovely to see you, everybody. Back again. Your Excellencies. Absolutely. Buenos dias. Your Excellencies. It's great to have you back in the Weltsaal at the Federal Foreign Office. Wonderful. Thank you so much for your contribution already yesterday. It's been a day full of conversations and, of course, for your inputs. Thank you for being here. And as I just received the message, we are about to start. So please take your seat. Please take your seat as we are about to start with its 16th edition of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, known as PCD. Our first segment will be also live streamed, so it's also public to the press. Yes, and we are slowly closing all the doors as we are about to start with the official opening of our second day here at the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. Your Excellencies, once again, good morning. Thank you for being on time despite the strike that is going on currently in Berlin. Thanks for being on time. Yes. Welcome and good morning, Your Excellencies. And once again, welcome back to the second day of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, starting into our second day with a conversation. So once again, Your Excellencies, Her Excellency Annalena Baerbock and His Excellency André Correa do Lago. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Hi, good. How are you? We are about to start in our second day of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, Your Excellencies, and we start with a conversation and with an outlook on the day and also an outlook of the COP30. Let's take a quick official photo for our photographers. Wonderful. And then we start with our first conversation. Yes. Beautiful. Good morning again. As I mentioned, Your Excellency Annalena Baerbock, Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany, and His Excellency André Correa do Lago, COP30 President-designate from Brazil, Jennifer Morgan. Thank you once again and for starting together into our second day of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue in its 16th edition. As I mentioned, we are about to start with a conversation. So, Minister Baerbock, when we look into the field of climate politics have been increasingly influenced by geopolitics as we are living in these times, and with the US announcement to withdraw from the Paris Agreement, what do you see? What is the role for multilateral cooperation and the COPs? What role do you see?
Well, first of all, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Berlin, even though there was already a very intensive and productive day yesterday. As I heard, apologies, you might have heard, we had our constitutional decisions yesterday in the parliament after elections, so we were for 7 hours in the parliament, myself as well, to form our new parliament in these times. But thank you so much. That for the first day yesterday, there were already this intensive debate, and as you have already mentioned, in these abnormal times, to use them also for maybe new solutions outside of the box, but not stucking in the answers of the past. So I believe, yet this is challenging, but this can be really be a new chance of bridging old divides from the past, which are not really there like we have seen in the past. Like to overcome these old divides of the so-called West against the rest, or developing countries versus industrialized countries, or even green leaders versus oil-producing countries. We have seen, I would say, at the last COPs already, that if we hold this group of 140, 160 countries together who just say, climate neutrality, this is our future, no matter what, and now we have to make it climate just for everybody. If we see in Africa that 60% of the solar sites are in Africa, unfortunately only 1% of the project, it's not a problem that we don't have solutions, it's just bringing the solutions to the right place. So using this geopolitical times to not only fight the pushback, but to be more pragmatic, more thinking out of the box, and by that accelerating our emissions reductions with new technology, bringing climate justice really at the core of the whole discussions, and then using the money which is there to fight not only the climate crisis, but the biggest security threat. The climate crisis is the biggest security threat, and use all the trillions in the world to mobilize it. And I think the study which just came out, pointedly to these discussions here at the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, that there is also this economic win if we work together, that it's not costing developing, that it's not costing economic futures, but that there is a chance of investing into green technology, strengthening GDP, is a success story if we walk the path together. And therefore I'm really thankful, and I think it's a great coincidence that we do have the COP, Andrea, in this year's time in Brazil, in Belém, a country which can show that things are not always easy, but that there is a solution where we can all benefit together. So congratulations again, and really looking forward to Belém and the climate conference, especially in this challenging geopolitical times.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Minister Baerbock. Thank you. Your Excellency Correa de Lago, we had a very intense day, as Minister Baerbock just mentioned yesterday already, at the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. So what is your takeaway from the discussions yesterday, and is there anything, a specific point from the Minister that you would like to point out again?
Hello. Good morning to all. Lovely to see you all again. I think that yesterday we had a really very interesting discussion. And I must say that I have to thank you all for having the patience of reading the 11-page letter that I sent last week, and how the spirit that we tried to bring with the idea of the mutirão, of getting together and all work together, has been mentioned by many of you, and that spirit, I believe, was in this room, which is the fact that we can all work together doing what each one of us can do, not doing the same thing, but doing what every one of us can do. So I was very happy to have this first reaction to our first proposal. And then I think that there is also a very clear feeling that we need to strengthen multilateralism. There is no alternative to multilateralism, and we we could feel yesterday that there are some adjustments, there are some solutions that can be found, but always in that sense of strengthening multilateralism. I think also that I was quite happy and impressed to see that in spite of the numbers and the scientific findings of last year, which bring some very inspire some pessimism about 1.5. I think that there is a very strong feeling that 1.5 has to be a reference, has to continue to be a reference, and is still possible. And this is also something that we appreciate very much. By the way, the presentation of that report that you ordered you asked, no? To UNDP and to OECD is extraordinary, because if we don't have an economic answer, something that really makes sense, this agenda enters into a debate that I believe is not so constructive, which is opinions about things. I think that that report supports enormously the argument that fighting climate change is economically a very good path, and for the quality of life of people also is something that is absolutely central. We had last year so many awful climate-induced incidents in all of our countries that it is impossible not to think that we have to work together, and this report shows that it makes economic sense. We have to undo the perception that it is not a way forward that incorporates development, that incorporates all sectors of the society.
Minister Baerbock, yesterday it became clear that we are just around the corner to COP30 in Belém. Some are counting the weeks, some are counting the hours. So it's really the way looking ahead to COP30. What do you believe should be the next most important steps and stepping stones towards COP30?
Well, obviously it's more easy to point with a finger at others, but we as Europeans, we know with our own NDC, we're intensively working on that one. And this is why, this is an open dialogue, a working process here at Petersberg Climate Dialogue, but this is also doing our own homework. So the issue of delivering on our targets to come to the pathway of 1.5 is obviously our common obligation. And if we agree that this would now also with this new report, if we are not coming on this pathway, we will lose 3% of GDP worldwide. It's also economic wise. We know that there are also other countries or regions except the EU who also have to deliver. So I'm really asking and looking to a pushy chair of the next climate conference to ask us, to challenge us to bring on board our deliveries. I would say for my own country, Germany, we took really milestone decision, changing our constitution of investing into infrastructure, and we have now in our constitution 100 billion for green transition projects infrastructure-wise. And we put in our constitution as well that we have to be climate neutral latest by 2045. So every law, and this is, I think, this important message, everything we are doing in other fields, even though climate should be, we discussed it as well, like mainstreaming climate to all policies, but we all know that internal politics sometimes it is not so easy. But now with these kind of changes, if you have new constructions of roads or whatsoever, it can be always challenged before the courts of saying, how does it fit to the goal within the constitution of climate neutrality? So this is something where we are working on for Germany, also on the pathway, not only to Belém, but furthermore. And then what we discussed already last year's time, shifting the trillion and mobilizing the money. Obviously, climate mainstreaming means that in the financial institutions worldwide, there has to be this understanding if investments are also globally not climate neutral. They contradict our goals within the climate discussions and also our security. If they are not climate neutral, this is the biggest security threat for us. And this interconnection between security, economic strength, and climate project, I believe, is a key part which we have to bring closer together. And third part, but you also mentioned it in your letter, and really naming the projects. We have discussed that also at the last conferences so often. So how does it help to have a new NDC if we cannot build the grid in our country, if we do not have the storage? So we have to bring together the projects, the finance, and also the construction in the concrete countries, leading by best examples, learning from each other from different regions, I would say is a third very important pathway to Belém.
Thank you. Some questions to you, Your Excellency Correa do Lago. Where do you see the most important steps and stepping stones when you look ahead to COP30?
Well, I think that the issue of the NDCs, as you were mentioning, absolutely key. But I think that we have to look at these, let's say, these ideas in a fresher way. So, for instance, our NDCs, when we discussed internally in Brazil among many ministries, because obviously the NDCs affect the entire economy of the country. So you have to discuss with many ministries that have different opinions about how we should go ahead, what kind of sectors should sacrifice more for the other. I think that first we need very good information about it. And second, the NDC is also somehow, that's how we did it. It's an excuse for a plan for the country in the future. So the same way that we had development plans that did incorporate, for instance, social justice. Social justice is something that is so obvious that it is naturally incorporated. So how do you design a plan of development of your country in which climate enters as a natural necessity like social justice? So our NDC can be read mostly as a plan for development of Brazil, and also a logic that will also bring investments to Brazil. I think that the NDC acquired another dimension when we discussed it that way, not as a sacrifice. How are we going to cut things? How are we going to make this sector do more than the other sectors? No, it was much more about these opportunities. And then I think that also we don't want to get lost. I think that we have to explain, not only inside the government, which is what we did during the preparation of the NDC, but also to the public. And how can we translate what we mean by the implementation of the decisions of all these negotiations? We have to present what we decide as all of us as a community of countries, what we decided, how does it translate to the life of people? And unfortunately, I think that only those who are against this agenda have elaborated a narrative about it. We have to have our own narrative on how these decisions that we all made together, that are a consensus among ourselves, how are they measurable and how are they going to touch people's life? So we need to have not only all sectors of the economy as allies, or at least to support those that really need support, and the same thing about people. And I believe that we are slightly losing this game, because I think that the other side has been more active than because maybe we got a little comfortable that we were institutionally doing the right thing, but we have to go beyond doing the right thing institutionally. We have to make a stronger effort there.
Thank you for our conversation to start into another productive day here at the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. I know that you have a press conference coming up and that's why you are leaving now the Weltsaal. So thanks again for our conversation in the morning. Thank you. And with that, Your Excellencies, we are diving, and of course with that energy for conversation and for diving into our conversations, we are now starting into our breakout sessions. So this is now coming up, and you all have colored dots on your badges. And as we are in Berlin, so the colors of your dots will show you your respective breakout room and the working room. And as we are in Berlin, you know that we have tough bouncers. Maybe you know it from the famous Berghain Club. We are not as strict as the Berghain bouncers, but we have limited seat capacities in the workshop rooms. That's why I'm mentioning it. So find your breakout rooms with your respective colored dot, and then we see each other later again. The workshops, they start promptly at 10:20. And then we see each other later for another high-level segment. And with that, thank you for our start into our second day of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. Thank you all. Thank you. Much for being on time, Your Excellencies. I really appreciate it because then we are on time with our high-level segment. May I ask you to take your seat so we can start? Because the press colleagues, you are ready, right, for our high-level segment. So, how can we accelerate climate action and strengthen international cooperation in times of geopolitical uncertainties? Your Excellencies, but also colleagues to the press, thanks and welcome again to the high-level segment. And with that, we also welcome the Federal Chancellor of the Federal Republic of Germany and the Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs for Germany coming here into the Weltsaal now. Your Excellencies, the Federal Chancellor and the Federal Minister for Foreign Affairs of Germany. So there's a quick photo opportunity now to the colleagues of the press. All the flashlights are ready before we start into our high-level segment when it comes to debating on steps and instruments and enabling the Paris Agreement and overcoming the barriers. And last few seconds, thank you very much for this opportunity, and then the photo opportunity. And I hand over now directly to Annalena Baerbock. Stage is yours, Minister.
Good afternoon again, colleagues and friends. Dear Chancellor, dear Olaf Scholz, dear COP President-designate André Correa do Lago, Secretary General Guterres, live on screen, not the whole time, but listening to us, Excellencies, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start with a quote. The result is a slap in the face of global climate action. The world has been bitterly disappointed. End of quote. This was how an expert described the outcome of the 2009 Copenhagen Climate Conference. We all know that Copenhagen marked a challenging moment for climate negotiations. But we also know that it was not the end of climate action. 6 months later, in the spring of 2010, Germany's then Chancellor Angela Merkel and Mexico's President Felipe Calderón invited 45 climate ministers from around the world to Petersberg near Bonn. Their goal was to give fresh momentum to international climate negotiations in their darkest hour. 1 year later, the world negotiated the Paris Agreement, which, as we know, despite its shortcomings, shifted the world from a 4-degree trajectory to a 2.6-degree path. Of course, this was not solely the achievement of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue, but the dialogue played a crucial role in paving and maybe also pushing our way forward and coming out from the resignation of Copenhagen. Today, we gather for the 16th edition of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. And once again, we find ourselves in challenging times, to say the least. So once again, it's crucial that we are all here present, a group of countries which hail from all corners of the world and which is committed to holding this world, our world, together. That is precisely why you are here today, to tackle the greatest environmental challenge, but also the greatest security challenge of our time, the climate crisis. Or, as we did yesterday and this morning, to put it positively, to tap into the economic potential of the green transition, for the prosperity of our people. It is a great honor to have Chancellor Olaf Scholz with us today. Mr. Chancellor, I sincerely thank you for your dedication to international climate cooperation, for leading, we called it Team Germany and Team Europe, at various COPs over the past 3 years, and for your commitment to making Germany climate neutral by 2045. Before you take the stage, let me also introduce our distinguished guest, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, joining us live from the UN headquarters in New York. Mr. Secretary General, we all vividly remember your tireless efforts at COP29 in Baku. After tough negotiations and countless cups of coffee, your personal dedication was crucial in securing finally a breakthrough on an important decision regarding climate finance. Thank you. And now, without further delay, Mr. Chancellor, the floor is yours, please.
Sehr geehrter Herr Generalsekretär Guterres, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, Ministerinnen und Minister, sehr geehrter Herr Correa do Lago, liebe Annalena Baerbock, meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren. Wir leben in einer Zeit großer Erschütterung. Sicherheit ist das Thema der Stunde, zu Recht, denn ohne Sicherheit ist alles nichts. Deswegen investieren wir in Deutschland und Europa Milliarden in die Stärkung unserer Verteidigungsfähigkeit. Manche sagen nun, in Zeiten wie diesen sei der Klimaschutz nachrangig, so als sei Klimaschutz ein Luxus, den man sich nur in sorglosen Zeiten leisten könne. Doch diejenigen, die das behaupten, irren sich. Die Bekämpfung des menschengemachten Klimawandels ist und bleibt auch eines der wichtigsten sicherheitspolitischen Themen überhaupt. Das sagen nicht nur Klimaschützer, sondern auch unsere Nachrichtendienste. Wer Sicherheit denkt, muss Klima mitdenken, heißt es in einer aktuellen Studie von Klimaforschern und dem BND. Weltweit steigt die Gefahr von Waldbränden, von Überschwemmungen, von breiten Ernteausfällen. Es wächst das Risiko von Hunger und Seuchen. Politische Instabilität, Flucht und Ressourcenkonflikte sind die Folgen. Es gibt keinerlei vernünftigen Zweifel. Wir gewinnen den Kampf um eine friedliche Welt nur dann, wenn wir den Klimawandel begrenzen. Im Zentrum dieses Kampfes steht das Übereinkommen von Paris. Dieses Übereinkommen ist mehr als nur ein Vertrag. Es ist ein Zeichen, dass die Weltgemeinschaft über den Tag hinaus denkt und handelt. Ein Versprechen, dass wir gemeinsam an einer sicheren Zukunft für die kommenden Generationen arbeiten. Das ist der Geist von Paris, das ist die gelebte globale Verantwortung. In diesem Geist haben wir in den vergangenen 10 Jahren beeindruckende Erfolge erzielt. Ich bedauere deshalb außerordentlich, dass die USA das Abkommen verlassen wollen. Dabei ist eines doch klar: Durch Bestreiten und Ignorieren der Fakten verschwinden weder die Folgen des Klimawandels noch die Verantwortung der USA als historisch größter Emittent von Treibhausgasen. Was durch plötzliche Vollbremsung beim Umwelt- und Klimaschutz allerdings tatsächlich verschwindet, sind wirtschaftliche Chancen. Denn der weltweite Markt für klimafreundliche Schlüsseltechnologien wächst weiter rasant. Schon 2024 haben die Investitionen in die globale Energiewende die $2 Billionen Marke überschritten. Das entspricht Stand heute dem Volumen des gesamten weltweiten Ölhandels. Die Chancen sind also riesig und deswegen sollten wir den Wettbewerb um die besten Lösungen und die cleversten Innovationen auch mit dem allergrößten Ehrgeiz fortsetzen. Ich sage das auch ganz ausdrücklich für Deutschland. Deutschland ist zum ersten Mal auf Kurs, seine Klimaziele einzuhalten. Aus heutiger Sicht werden wir das Ziel erreichen, unseren CO2-Ausstoß bis 2030 um 65% gegenüber 1990 zu senken. Zumal unser Parlament in der vergangenen Woche nicht nur entschieden hat, die Ausgaben für die Sicherheit unseres Landes massiv zu erhöhen, sondern zugleich den Weg dafür geebnet hat, unsere Infrastruktur, unsere Gebäude, unseren Verkehr und unsere Unternehmen auf dem Weg in eine klimaneutrale Zukunft weiter voranzubringen. Damit leistet Deutschland einen Beitrag dafür, dass die EU ein ambitioniertes NDC für 2035 2030 und ein ambitioniertes Klimaziel für 2040 erreichen kann. Für uns ist klar, there is no turning back. Nicht bei der Energieerzeugung, nicht bei der Mobilität und auch nicht in der Industrie. Stichwort Energieerzeugung. Über 85% der 2024 global neu zugebauten Kraftwerkskapazität war erneuerbar. Und dieses Wachstum geht rasant weiter. In Deutschland hat sich bei Onshore-Windkraft die genehmigte Leistung 2024 im Vergleich zum Vorjahr 2023 fast verdoppelt. Im Vergleich zu 2022 sogar mehr als verdreifacht. Jeden Tag entstehen bei uns 38 Fußballfelder an Photovoltaik. Jeden einzelnen Tag. So haben wir den Anteil erneuerbaren Stroms in den vergangenen 4 Jahren von 40 auf 60% gesteigert. Und zwar nicht nur, weil es die klimafreundlichste Art der Energieerzeugung ist, sondern weil es auf Dauer die sicherste und kostengünstigste Art ist. Zweites Stichwort Mobilität. Ja, es sind die Verbraucherinnen und Verbraucher, die über die Geschwindigkeit der Entwicklung bei der E-Mobilität entscheiden werden. Aber wohin die Reise geht, ist auch da vollkommen klar. In China, dem derzeit größten Automobilmarkt, wurden im Monat Juli des vergangenen Jahres erstmals mehr elektrisch betriebene Autos als reine Verbrenner zugelassen. Nicht nur, weil es nachhaltiger und sauberer ist, sondern weil es am Ende wirtschaftlicher ist. Und auch Europas und Deutschlands Autobauer stehen mit den Modellen in den Startlöchern, die technisch weltweit an der Spitze stehen und gleichzeitig günstiger werden. Drittes und letztes Stichwort: Transformation der Industrie. Das ist vielleicht der größte und schwierigste Brocken auf dem Weg in Richtung Klimaneutralität. Denn jedes unserer Länder steht vor der Frage, wie gelingt es uns, Wohlstand, gut bezahlte Arbeit und Klimaschutz zusammenzubringen. Ein wichtiger Beitrag, den Deutschland gemeinsam mit aktuell 45 weiteren Mitgliedern aus Industrie-, Schwellen- und Entwicklungsländern leistet, ist der Klimaclub. Gerade ist Malaysia beigetreten. Seit Beginn des Jahres wird die Arbeit von einem eigenen Sekretariat in Paris unterstützt. Im Klimaclub sorgen wir gemeinsam für mehr Kooperation, mehr Transparenz und mehr Konvergenz in der weltweiten Dekarbonisierung, indem wir gemeinsam daran arbeiten, Carbon Leakage zu verhindern und Standards etwa für klimafreundlichen Stahl oder Zement vereinbaren. Mit der Global Matchmaking Plattform haben wir außerdem ein Instrument geschaffen, um die Dekarbonisierung der Industrie ganz besonders in Schwellen- und Entwicklungsländern zu unterstützen. Immer mit dem Ziel, Wachstum und Klimaschutz miteinander zu verbinden. Meine Damen und Herren, in einer Welt mit 8, zur Mitte des Jahrhunderts 10 Milliarden Bewohnerinnen und Bewohnern ist dieses Ziel essentiell. Und gleichzeitig gehört zur Wahrheit, dass die finanziellen Ressourcen für klimafreundliches Wachstum nicht gleich verteilt sind. Viele, besonders von den Auswirkungen des Klimawandels betroffene Staaten verfügen über sehr beschränkte Anlagemöglichkeiten, obwohl Investitionen gerade dort die Wirksamkeit in Sachen CO2-Reduktion hätten. Deswegen müssen wir mit öffentlichem Geld effektiver umgehen und gezielt private Investitionen hebeln. Und wir müssen die finanziellen Lasten auf mehr Schultern verteilen. Ich möchte ganz klar unterstreichen: Deutschland als Industrieland steht zu seiner Verantwortung. Wir bekennen uns ausdrücklich zu den Beschlüssen von Baku. Und gleichzeitig müssen wir die Unterstützung von Entwicklungsländern beim Klimaschutz und der Anpassung an den Klimawandel noch stärker als gemeinsame globale Anstrengung verstehen. Die Welt hat sich seit den 1990er Jahren zum Glück unglaublich verändert. In Asien, im Nahen und Mittleren Osten, in Afrika und Lateinamerika sind neue Kraftzentren der Weltwirtschaft entstanden. Mit wachsendem Wohlstand und Einfluss geht allerdings auch größere Verantwortung einher, nicht zuletzt bei der Klimafinanzierung. Meine Damen und Herren, über diese Fragen offen zu diskutieren, darin liegt die Stärke des Petersberger Climate Dialogs. In einer Zeit großer Erschütterung ist dieser Dialog umso wertvoller. Denn er unterstreicht die Bereitschaft, wenn auch nicht aller, so doch sehr, sehr vieler von uns, gemeinsam das Richtige zu tun. Und deshalb nochmal schönen Dank und herzlich willkommen.
Excellency. And now, greetings from Berlin to New York. I hand over and I give the floor now to Secretary General of the United Nations, His Excellency Antonio Guterres.
Chancellor Scholz, Excellencies, dear friends, thank you for this opportunity and for your focus today on collective climate action and acceleration of implementation. This could not be more timely. There is much uncertainty and instability in our world. But today we meet in the wake of some good news. Just this morning, the International Renewable Energy Agency officially confirmed that 2024 was a record year for renewables additions to global power capacity. Renewables represented more than 92% of all new electricity generation capacity installed last year. The amount of renewables added represents more than the total electricity capacity of Brazil and Japan combined. Europe's capacity grew by 9%, with Germany contributing more than 1/4 of that growth. Africa's capacity grew by almost 7%. And all of this is another reminder of a 21st century truth. Renewables are renewing economies, they are powering growth, creating jobs, lowering energy bills, and cleaning our air. And every day, they become an even smarter investment. Since 2010, the average cost of wind power has plunged 60%. Solar is 90% cheaper. In 2023, clean energy sectors accounted for 5% of economic growth in India and 6% in the US. It accounted for 1/5 of China's GDP growth and 1/3 of the EU's. The economic case for and the opportunities of climate action have become ever clearer, particularly for those who choose to lead. And leadership is what we need, as today's IRENA report shows, to accelerate the shift to renewables and to correct the imbalances in the transition, which is still starving developing countries outside China of the investment needed to fully embrace clean energy. Excellencies, dear friends, as the title of this session puts it so well, we are indeed in a turning point to the future. In the 10 years since Paris, we have seen other important progress. 90% of global emissions are now covered by net zero targets. A decade ago, the planet was on course for a global temperature rise of over 4 degrees Celsius. Today, countries' national climate plans, or NDCs, if fully delivered, would take us closer to 2.3 degree rise. And at the same time, climate challenges are piling up. It seems records are shattered at every turn. The hottest day of the hottest months of the hottest year of the hottest decade ever. And all of this is hitting the vulnerable hardest. And every day, people in their pockets with higher living costs, higher insurance premiums, and higher food prices. Just last week, the World Meteorological Organization confirmed that 2024 was another alarming year. Almost every climate indicator reached new and increasing dangerous heights, inflaming displacement and food insecurity and inflicting huge economic losses. And for the first time, the annual global temperature was 1.5 degrees Celsius hotter than pre-industrial times. Scientists are clear. It's still possible to meet the long-term 1.5 degree limit, but requires urgent action and it requires leadership. Excellencies, dear friends, I see two critical fronts to drive action. First, new national climate plans, or NDCs, due by September. Investors need certainty and predictability. These new plans are a unique opportunity to deliver and lay out a coherent vision for a just green transition. They must align with 1.5 degree limit, as agreed at COP28, cover all emissions and the whole economy, and together they must reduce global emissions 60% by 2035 compared to 2019, and contribute to the COP28 global energy transition goals. All these must be achieved in line with the principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities in the light of national circumstances, but everybody must do more. The G20, the largest emitters and economies, must lead, and every country must step up and play their part. The United Nations is with you all. President Lula and I are working to secure the highest ambition from the largest economies. The United Nations Climate Promise is supporting 100 countries to prepare their new climate plans. And we'll convene a special event in September to take stock of the plans of all countries, push for action to keep 1.5 within reach, and deliver climate justice. Second, we must drive finance to developing countries. The COP29 finance agreement must be implemented in full. And I count on the leadership of COP29 and COP30 presidencies to deliver a credible roadmap to mobilize $1.3 trillion a year by 2035. We need new and innovative sources of financing and credible carbon pricing. Developed countries must honor their promise to double adaptation finance to at least $40 billion a year by this year. And we need serious contributions to the fund for responding to loss and damage and to get it up and running. Excellencies, we can only meet these goals with stronger collaboration between governments and across society and sectors. Those that will lag behind need to be not a reason for us to be discouraged, but an increase in our commitment to move forward. And the rewards are there for the taking, for all those ready and willing to lead the world through these troubled times. We are at a turning point. I urge you to seize the moment and seize the prize, and I thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, and greetings from Berlin to New York. We all know that your calendar is very busy, but thanks for joining us here at the 16th edition of the Petersberg Climate Dialogue. And with that, we close the public segment now. So I kindly ask the press to leave the beautiful Weltsaal here at the Federal Foreign Office. And we open the door, and of course, when the doors are closed again, this is my sign to give again the floor back to the moderator, Annalena Baerbock of the high-level segment. But as I mentioned, it will take a few moments because we have a lot of journalists in the room. Thank you very much for your media coverage, but the public segment is with that closed now. And this is also always, of course, a moment to reconnect. I mean, you all have been very busy in the morning already in the first workshop rounds. We continue the spirit of conversation again in the afternoon, as it is really, in German we say Chefsache, leadership matter, to put climate policy into the terms of the leadership exercise and prospect as well. So I know a lot has been already discussed in the workshops. We continue in the afternoon. And we wait a few seconds until the journalists have left the room.